Hey, Carnivores, Carnivore Carns on December 5th, I believe this is. And guess what? I'm about 5 days late on doing an update. And this is a big one because December 1st was 1 year on Carnivore. And I'm going to tell you, the amount of changes in my life in that 1 year have been tremendous. So, hey, stick around. Let's figure out. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the good things and some of the bad things that have kind of come up and just happened while I was making this change. So first off, please, if you like what you hear and it helps you, please leave a comment below, like and share, and be sure to hit that bell so that you get notified whenever new videos come out. I'm just growing the channel, so I can't guarantee they come out every day or more than once a week, but I'm going to try my best to at least get once a week. So, guys, let's back up a little bit. So, as y'all know, I do have cerebral palsy, which causes mobility issues. Now, I've always worked, and most times, a lot of what I have done has been on my feet. But because of that, I've worn my ankles out, and they caused me a lot of issues. And so that's kind of how I got to where I am. But I've always been heavy. Even as a teenager, even as a kid, I was heavy. I always had a belly on me. And my mom would always say, we got to try and get that weight off of you because it's gonna cause you problems later. And then when I was about 12 years old, I had major surgery on my ankles called a triple arthrodesis. And the doctors told my parents, and this was at Shriners Hospital back in the early 90s, the doctors told my parents that he's going to have several years of great mobility. But because we're fusing his ankles, the only movement I have in my ankles is a few degrees up. I can't go past 90 degrees down. So he said because we're fusing his ankle, he's going to have great mobility. He's going to do really well for several years. But the day will come when arthritis is going to set up in his ankles, and it's going to cause him problems, but he'll still be better than what he is now. And let me tell you, what the doctors said was true. But I would not trade the past 25 years and not have had the surgery. I would not have not done that. Let's put it that way. I'm very thankful that my parents did that because once I healed from the surgery, and it took about a year, I had 20 plus years of being able to do pretty much anything I wanted to do. I've always been on my feet, like I said. I sacked groceries and took groceries to people's cars. Was my first job at Piggly Wiggly. And then I worked for a apartment complex, mowing their grass. And then after that, I even in high school, I had a job where I cleaned out 25 stalls a day at a walking horse barn. And then after that, I've been in sales most of my life. And for the past 10 years or so, on and off, I've been in direct sales, going into people's homes, demonstrating products. But in 2007, I was 233 pounds. I'll never forget it. I was 233 and I was miserable. And I decided to get in shape. And for a solid 6 months, at least once a day, but a lot of times twice a day, I was at the gym. And I was on the elliptical. I was in the pool. I was doing it all. Towards the end, I was running on the elliptical, which I can't run well, but I was doing the best I could. I was on the elliptical for 6 miles, all right, which I thought was amazing. And a lot of times before I would go do my workout, I would go at 4 o'clock in the morning to a local park we have here that has a 1 mile paved walking trail. And I would do 2 to 3 laps doing that and then go work out. And then when I would finish working out before I had to go work, I would play a little bit of basketball if the weather was nice outside. So I was very active, but most times when I finished my workouts, I was utterly exhausted and my ankles were tired. They hurt. Now it would get better throughout the day, but they were tired, especially when I get off the ellipticals. And so I was working out, plus I was doing what everybody says you're supposed to do. I was cutting my calories, and I was eating smoothies. I was eating salads. I would go to Subway, because at that time, Subway was a big thing, $5 footlongs. And that Jared guy that I think he actually ended up getting in a bunch of trouble. But anyway, he lost all this weight on Subway. So most days for lunch, I would walk from my office up the hill to Subway, and I would get a foot-long veggie sub. And I would have one of those, or I'd have half of that at lunch, and then maybe in the afternoon I'd have the second one, maybe at night, the second half of it. And it was good, but I was always hungry. I would go home and I would, just kind of graze on what I thought was healthy stuff. Peanut butter was my favorite, still is. I love peanut butter now. I don't eat it anymore, but I still love peanut butter. I was doing protein shakes and all of this, and I was literally working my tail off, and it helped. I went in 6 months, I went from 233 to in 2009. 2007 is not when I started working out. I'm sorry, late 2008 or early 2009. I can't remember is when I started working out. But after 6 or 7 months, guess what? I was down to 178 pounds. Still had a small belly on me, but I was 178 pounds. And I looked great and I felt great. And all was good. And I remember one day I was walking up the hill to go get my sub sandwich. And I actually had a friend from the office. She was walking up there with me. And just out of the blue, I'm walking and I have a catch in my ankle and I go down. Now, I fall plenty, so getting up wasn't a big deal. And I got up and I was like, what in the world was that? And then I went on, and every once in a while there would be a catch. And I got to where, 9 times out of 10, I didn't fall when it happened. I would catch myself. But there would just be this little catch. And I used to tell the doctors that it's almost like there's a tendon back there popping. And the doctors told me, says, there's no tendon where you're showing us the pain is. And they said, that is your ankle. And that's arthritis in your ankle. And it progressively, got worse. And my doctor, prescribed meloxicam. And he would tell me every time I would go for a checkup, and he would talk to me about medications. He would say, now, I need you to know this, and I need you to listen to me. Meloxicam is not safe. It could very well cause you heart problems. You're on the best medicine for what you need it for, but it has major side effects. And I would always tell him, listen, doc, I have to have it to be able to walk. If it takes some years off my life, then there's nothing really I can do about it, because I've got to continue going. But the funny thing is, I started hurting, and then also I met my wife at this time, and she and I started dating and got married and everything. And what happens when you get married, you get comfortable. I quit working out and I quit eating like I had been, which was, just cutting my calories. I remember there was one day I ate about 1,300 calories, and I burned, according to the elliptical and all the stuff at the gym, which is probably really wrong, I burned like 1,500 or 1,600 calories that day. So I thought that was great. Well, it turns out that was probably terrible. But I didn't know. But I quit doing all that. And, I just started gaining weight. And gaining weight. And next thing I know, I'm back to 200 pounds. And then the next thing I know, I was going to donate plasma one time, and I got on the scale because they had to have my weight, and I was at 235 pounds. And I went, well, crap, I'm back to where I started. But guess what? My ankles hurt, and I didn't want to go back working out because I just wore myself out. So I just, continued on like I had been doing. And the weight just slowly crept up and crept up. And I tried, there was a show that was on Netflix at one time. I guess it still is on there. I think it was called Sick, Fat, and Nearly Dead or something like that, where this one guy spends an entire year or month or 6 months, I don't remember how long, and he drank nothing but juice. He juiced every day. And he went around the country talking to people and interviewing people, and he was trying to get rid of his skin disorders and lose weight. And my wife and I watched that, and I thought, heck, I'm going to try that. We've got a juicer. Well, that lasted about 3 days. All right. And I was like, well, this isn't going to work for me. I lost a little bit of weight, but, I'm not going to, it wasn't fat. It was just everything. I don't know what it was. But anyway, I tried it for a little while. That didn't work. I tried, my wife has a very good friend that has been very, very, very successful with Weight Watchers. I did that and lost a few pounds. But again, nothing really changed because, with Weight Watchers, what's crazy is you can stay in your points and you can have a couple of pancakes for breakfast, but it's still allowed and you can still stay within your points. You can eat some really bad stuff, but not knocking Weight Watchers, because I know a lot of people who have made that work. I know it. I have seen the results. But, what ultimately, happened was I went to Disney World with my family in 2022. We went for Halloween. And around that time, I was 294 pounds. I may have even been a few pounds heavier than that when we went. I was on HCTZ because I was swelling, and I had high blood pressure. And, of course, still taking my meloxicam. But I'd always take my meloxicam and usually chase it with some Tylenol. Now, I tried not to ever chase it with some ibuprofen because that's not good. But it would usually be followed up by some Tylenol to help with the pain. And so we went down to Disney, and when I go to Disney World or anywhere, anything remotely like that, basically anywhere it's going to be a lot of walking for the day, I have a scooter. That's just what's best for me. I have a scooter that I get on, and that way I can have my enjoyment with my family, not be in pain, not always be looking for somewhere to sit. And so we went to Disney World, and we had a great time. But, at night, I was miserable because when I would sit all day long on that scooter, and for 8 days, I had very little mobility. I swelled up everywhere. My ring was tight. My shirts were tight. My shirts barely even fit. My wife bought shirts for us to go that were, all kinds of different Disney things. And most of them, it was just a good thing I was sitting. And you couldn't tell exactly how tight they were on me. But I was miserable. At night, I would take my shoes off and my feet were like clubs. And I remember one time I even doubled my HZTZ and thought that'll help. Well, no, I peed like crazy, but they were still swollen. I was swollen everywhere and I was miserable. I remember we were in a queen bed, and my wife couldn't even sleep in the bed with me because I was taking up so much room, and I, was so uncomfortable, and it was hard for me to roll over. So my daughter would sleep with me, and then my wife would sleep on a Murphy bed that was part of the hotel room we were in. And that's how we did it. And it was very frustrating for me. And I remember thinking, something has got to change ASAP, but I didn't know what. And I had been hearing about carnivore, and that was back in the corner of my mind, but I always thought, there is no way I can do carnivore because that's eating meat, and meat's expensive. So we came home, and I was miserable. Of course, I always do better once I get home. I don't know what it is, but when I travel, I do have those issues. When I got home, the fluid came off, and I felt better, but I still was miserable. And so Christy, she said, people are talking about this carnivore diet. Have you looked anything up about it? I said, no, I've not looked anything up about it. And so I was sitting here on the couch and I thought, well, I'll just see what this is about. And I'm pretty sure the first person that popped up was Dr. Ken Berry. And you know what's funny? I had been seeing his posts or his videos for a long time. They were always the ones where he was like this and he was pointing up, and it was something, about an ailment that someone would have. And I would just dismiss it. But when I typed in carnivore diet, that's what came up, and I clicked on it and I watched it. And then I was like, well, first of all, this guy's not far from me. He's down in Nashville. He is a doctor, been practicing for 20 years. And he seems like he might know what he's talking about, because you know what? This about halfway makes sense. And I watched another video and then another one. And then my brother-in-law went to a Bitcoin conference. And lo and behold, Sean Baker was there. And my brother-in-law came back talking about how he had talked to Sean Baker and that he did carnivore, and he recommended it also. And so I watched enough videos, and I told Christy, I said, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Now, something you got to know about me is that I'm an all or nothing in a lot of ways. For many years, I smoked. I started smoking when I was 13 years old, and I think it was 26, 27 when I finally quit. And in the time of smoking and the numerous times I tried to quit smoking, I would quit, and then I would think, well, I can have a cigarette. And I would have a cigarette thinking I could just do one. And next thing I know, I was back to a pack. One time I quit smoking for an entire 6 months, and that was back when Wellbutrin was the medicine to help you quit smoking, and I took it. Well, that had some major side effects for me, but I did quit smoking until one night I was out at a club with a buddy of mine. I was his designated driver, and I got a migraine. And the only thing I could think of that might just take the edge off was a cigarette. Well, that was back when they had cigarette machines. So, pulled out $2, went over to the cigarette machine, got a pack of cigarettes, and it was on from there. And by the time I quit smoking, I was 2.5 packs a day. All right. And so when I quit smoking, I actually ended up sick. I ended up with mono, sick, and had to go to the hospital and stayed. I was sick for 4 days at home, and every time I looked at a cigarette, I would throw up. And then when I went to the hospital, I was in there for a couple days because I was in such bad shape. And when I came out, I didn't really want a cigarette. I said, I can do this. And a brand new pack of cigarettes sat on my entertainment center in front of me for a month. I finally gave that pack away and the carton that went with it that was in my truck away to a buddy of mine. And I haven't smoked since. And people have told me, well, why don't you vape or why don't you smoke a cigar every once in a while? Well, guess what? If I vape or I smoke a cigar every once in a while, I'm just going to go buy a pack of Marlboros, even though they're $7, $8 a pack now, and I'll be back off to the races, and I'll end up killing myself smoking. I can't do it. So I had to do that with carnivore. I woke up, I told Christy, November, whatever the last day of the month is that 30th or 31st, I don't know. But I told her, I said, tomorrow I'm carnivore, and we're going to do this for 90 days. That's what Dr. Berry says to do, so that's what I'm going to do. And I did carnivore starting December 1st. I stopped everything, and I only was eating meat. I was doing ground beef bowls, chicken. I was doing steaks. The first meal I had was a big steak because I wanted to get started on this right. And that's what I did. And my wife will tell you that I didn't deviate at all. It was like a light switch. I stopped everything else. Even going to church, I would just go right to my seat, sit down. I would bypass the donuts. We would go out to eat. I would spend the extra money and get a steak. Even if it was a Mexican restaurant and I paid $30 for a steak that wasn't worth $2, I still did it so that I could eat. And I didn't eat chips and all that. And I couldn't believe it. My first week doing this, I lost, I think it was 11 pounds. I can't remember for sure. My first week, I lost 11 pounds, which was nuts. And guess what? The next week, I did about the same thing. Next week, 5 or 6 pounds. And it just kept on going, but I kept feeling better. I noticed after about 4 days that I just felt better, that I got up easier, at least out of bed. I noticed I had more energy in the evenings. And I couldn't believe it. And that's one thing that kept me going was, dadgummit, I feel better. And so that's what I continued to do. And the weight literally started coming off. I started at 294 pounds. Right now I'm down to 220. I'm fluctuating a little bit. We're going to get into that later, but fluctuating a little bit, but I'm down around 220, somewhere around there. I have been down as far as 211 because after several months I've had a couple of slips and still mostly carnivore, but had a couple of slips that I've dealt with, but I just kept on going and the weight kept coming off. And I'll never forget, I had somebody gave me a shirt and it fit great. I loved it. This was back before I went on carnivore, and I loved it. And my wife looked at it and she said, "Do you know why that fits so well?" I said, "Why is that?" She said, "Because it's a 4X. I've been wearing 3Xs. And I went, "Oh, okay." And I was wearing a 4X shirt and it fit. It wasn't baggy. It was comfortable. My 3X shirts were getting tight. I was wearing my pants were 42s or 44s. I don't remember. 42s, I think. That's what I was wearing when I started. Now I am wearing a 2X shirt. In fact, this shirt right here, my wife told me, said next time I go to where I got this one, I need to just try on a 1X because it's a little bit baggy on me. But I'm wearing 2X in majority of my shirts, and depending on what pair of pants it is, it's going to be, a lot of times I'm wearing a 32 in pants. Now I do have a couple of pairs of pants, just however they're sized, I have no clue. They're sized as 36s. If I put 36s on in anything else, they literally fall to my knees. So I don't know why that is, but it is what it is. But I've gone from basically 42s to 32s. I'm still 220, but I feel really good. Except for, like I've said before, I still have problems with my ankles. They're not as bad as they were, but getting up steps, carrying things is still troublesome. And it has affected my, what I was doing for a living, which was on my feet. I can't do that anymore. But everything else is better. There was a time, I had gotten to a point where this shoulder, I couldn't go any more over this, and I couldn't hardly reach behind me. And now I can do anything I need to. My mobility is back for pretty much everywhere from my ankles up. And again, my ankles are improved. I'm really excited to see how they are the more I lose and the healthier I get. But I did, strict carnivore for 7 months. And then at a birthday party, I decided I would have a small bite of cake. And y'all can guess kind of how it went from there. I didn't just go all in out of carnivore, but I was still 90% carnivore. But if you put cake in front of me, I was going to eat it. And the problem is I can't have just one piece. Like that old Pringles commercial, I bet you can't eat just one. I can't just have one piece of cake. So I would have a whole bunch of steak, but then there'd be cake, and I'd have my steak or my cake too. And so my weight has fluctuated. And over Thanksgiving, it had over the last few months has gone from 211 It would go up, down, up, down. But Thanksgiving, when I got home, I was 225 pounds. And I was like, oh no, we can't do this. We cannot do this. So the day after we got home from Texas Thanksgiving, that was basically my December 1st again. And I've been strict carnivore since then. I haven't had anything that was not a carnivore way of eating. And this morning I weighed in at 220 pounds. And even though I haven't lost as much as I would like in this amount of time, my pants are already back to fitting better because they were getting tight, and shirts are fitting better. And I feel better. I was getting very sluggish. I was hurting more when I was just walking around. I was on my cane. But, the last few days I've not had to use my cane anymore. So it's amazing when they say that meat is medicine. It really is. And I sure wish, and I told my wife this, I wish I had known about this, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Because there's no telling where I would be now physically. But at the same time, I'm glad I went through this because now I can help some people. One thing I've learned is it's easier to help somebody if you know where they've come from. And I know where you've come from. So I'm here to help. And I just wanted to give a really detailed video on how I got where I am and why I'm still doing it. I know it's a bit long, but hoping that you will find benefit out of it. And please, comment. Tell me what you're doing, what problems you're having. Tell me if it helps. Please look up Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Ken Berry, Laura Spath. There are so many others out there that I cannot think of. There's one girl named Amanda, and I believe hers is Carnivorous Me. She has an amazing story, and she does a video with Sean Baker. Not Sean Baker, I'm sorry. She does a video with Ken Berry. So find that video. Just put in Carnivorous Me and Sean Baker, or Amanda and Sean Baker, something like that. And check out that video. She was morbidly obese, and her story is tremendous. All right, it's actually enjoyable to listen to, see how far she's come. So anyway, I hope that helps. I hope it wasn't too long. I didn't plan for it to be as long as it is, but my story has had a little bit to it, so I did want to share that. But anyway, remember, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment. I really would like to help a little bit. There's tons of people out there promoting the carnivore diet and telling their stories, and I enjoy hearing all of them. Make today your December 1st. January is World Carnivore Month, and I really think that if I waited till January, it wouldn't have happened. All right, so make today the day that you change everything. I don't care if you had a crappy breakfast. Well, guess what? You still got lunch and dinner. All right? Make today the day. All right? Don't wait. So anyway, guys, I'll see you on the next video. And I'm eager to see how things have changed for you guys and where you're starting and where we go. Y'all have a good one. See ya.